Ladies and gentlemen, this is a new series for our podcast here at the Pro Wrestling Archives called Unsung Heroes. And this first episode that we're going to do today is about Bam Bigelow, Scott Charles Bam Bigelow from Asbury Park, New Jersey. He's wrestled in all major wrestling promotions such as WWE, WCW, ECW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, and a lot of other wrestling federations. And I remember first seeing Bam Bigelow at the Survivor Series '87. I was 3 years old, and I had the tape on VHS. And I remember he teamed with Hogan, and he made it all the way to the end, where he was then taken out in the Survivor Series match. I got to follow Bam Bigelow's career, pretty much the whole thing. I know he started out in Memphis, and I didn't see much of that until recently. But I remember him reading about him in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, in his work when he went overseas to Japan, and I also remember seeing him pop back up in the WWF at that time, and was involved in a lot of different stuff going on from, I think it was about 92 to 95. I remember him being with the $1 Million Corporation with Ted DiBiase. I remember him being with Luna Vachon. I remember him also in that WrestleMania main event with Lawrence Taylor. I never understood why Bam Bigelow did not get a title run as a world champion. He's one of the bigger guys and very agile for his size. He could do cartwheels. He could do stuff off the top rope. Very, very talented guy. Then I remember catching his run in ECW, and that was when stuff was changing for Bam Bigelow as far as he did become the ECW world champion. He innovated moves in wrestling never done before, such as throwing somebody into the crowd from the ring, over the top rope, over the barrier, into the crowd. And I remember Spike Dudley crowd surfing all around, the arena. Bam Bigelow versus the franchise Shane Douglas in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in an ECW ring at November to Remember '97 was one of the greatest wrestling matches I've ever seen. And I don't think that many people thought that the franchise could go over on Bam Bigelow, because Bam was a big guy, man, and the franchise was a different style wrestler. But they put on one of the greatest matches I'd ever seen. I also remember, jumping back a little bit, is I remember that the Triple Threat. When I think of the Triple Threat, I think of the franchise. I think of Bam Bigelow, and I think of Chris Candido, and I think about their ladies. And I saw Bam Bigelow one time. I was at I believe it was either Dorney Park or it was either Dorney Park or it was Great Adventure when I was a kid. And I remember walking around, and we saw Bam pushing around his kids in carriage or whatever you want to call the shit. So Bam was around the Northeast. I remember Bam going to WCW and having different things going on. I think he might have even been a tag champion over there. Maybe with Diamond Dallas Page in that Jersey triad thing with Canyon. But I also remember him being hardcore champion at WCW and fighting with people like Norman Smiley and Terry Funk. So that was interesting. But overall, I wanted to do this podcast on Bam Bigelow today because I feel like he's one of those guys. Like, when I think of Bam Bigelow, I think of pro wrestling. He is pro wrestling. And, Bam Bigelow is pro wrestling. Like, imagine Bam Bigelow doing anything else besides pro wrestling. It just wouldn't fit. So this is what I'll say about Bam Bigelow, and then I'll wrap this episode up, is Bam Bigelow was in the right place at the right time, getting involved in pro wrestling, and embodied it just as good, if not better, than anybody else. So you can't forget the guy with his ring attire and with his tattoos on his head, and the way he maneuvered in the wrestling ring. You know, Bam Bam Bigelow is pro wrestling.